Okay, let's dive right in. We're going to unpack a really tricky business case today. It's called Roast and Resolve. And honestly, it gets to the heart of a dilemma that so many companies are wrestling with right now. What do you do when your best employee's personal ambition starts to compete with your company?
So, I want to put you right in the driver's seat from the get go. Imagine your top performer, the one who just fixes every problem, your superstar, has been quietly building their own business on the side. The problem? That business looks a little too much like yours. It's a really tough spot to be in, and believe me, there are no easy answers here.
This exact problem has become so common that it actually has a name, the side hustle dilemma. And it's a challenge that's popped up directly from our modern work culture where, let's face it, the lines between your 9 to 5 and your personal passions are getting blurrier every single day.
I mean, think about it for a second. We say we celebrate an entrepreneurial spirit, right? We want innovators on our teams. But that exact same drive is what pushes people to start their own projects. And that's where things get messy, when those projects start to creep into this gray area of a potential conflict of interest, one that could put the whole organization at risk.
And here is the real tension at the heart of it. This isn't just a simple case of, oh, you broke a rule. It's more like a head-on collision between two things we normally see as positives: an employee's incredible drive to innovate and a company's fundamental need for integrity. And our case study today, which involves a company called Groundswell Coffee, is just a perfect example of this dilemma in action. All right, so let's get into the specifics. Let's meet the company right in the middle of this whole storm, Groundswell Coffee Co. And to really get why this was such a big deal for them, you have to understand that this wasn't just any company. This was a company built on trust. I mean, Groundswell wasn't just another corner coffee shop. Their whole vibe, their entire brand, was built on this bedrock of really strong values. Things like community, sustainability, even giving people second chances. They worked hard to build this amazing culture of trust and optimism. And that strong identity is exactly why this secret side hustle felt less like a business problem and more like, well, a betrayal. So every story like this has its main character. And in this one, it was a manager who was, by literally all accounts, an absolute superstar within the company. Her name was Rachel Lyman. And look, she wasn't just good at her job, she was a total game changer for Groundswell, a true turnaround artist. She was the person you'd send in to rescue a failing store. Her results were so off the charts incredible that management basically gave her the keys to the kingdom, a huge amount of autonomy. And that autonomy, yeah, that turned out to be a classic double-edged sword. You know how companies have their internal legends? Well, she was one of them. The way people talked about her was like a fixer with vision, a mentor with moxie. So we're not just talking about a manager here. We're talking about a celebrated leader, someone who people thought really embodied the spirit of the company. Her reputation was just legendary. And here's where the story takes a turn. That very same independence that made her a superstar, it also created a massive blind spot for the company, one where things could go wrong completely under the radar of leadership. So, what exactly was happening in that blind spot? Well, Rachel Lyman was quietly, on the side, building her own private consulting business. And get this, it was a venture in the exact same industry, using all the skills and knowledge she had perfected on Groundswell's dime. Yeah, as you can probably imagine, when this all came out, it created a serious conflict. A perfectly brewed storm, you could say, for a coffee company that was so proud of its tight-knit culture. And this is where you can really see the two sides of the coin. On one side, you've got everything that made Rachel so awesome: her innovation, her personal ambition, that drive. But on the other side, you've got the stuff that actually holds a company together: loyalty, integrity, and maybe most important of all, trust. Groundswell was caught smack dab in the middle of this clash. And look, the really crucial point here is that this wasn't just some weekend hobby she had. It was directly blurring the ethical and operational lines with her day job at Groundswell. You start asking all these questions like, wait, is she using company time for this? Or are professional contacts suddenly becoming her personal clients? All of this ambiguity created a massive, massive problem. Okay, so the secret's out. Now Groundswell's leadership has to hit the pause button and figure out just how bad the potential damage could be. And what they quickly realized was that the risks were way bigger than just one employee's actions. This wasn't something they could just, toss over to the legal department for a quick fix. No way. Whatever they decided to do was going to send a huge message to every single employee, every vendor, every customer. It was basically a test of their culture, their brand, their entire identity. And when you actually lay it all out like this, you start to see how the damage could just ripple through the whole company. Your reputation, it could take a serious hit. Operationally, things are a mess. But honestly, the biggest risks were all internal. You're talking about a potential collapse of trust and loyalty, and the very real danger that this kind of thing scares away your other great talent. The ripple effects were potentially huge.
So that brings it right back to you in the hot seat. You see all these cascading risks piling up. What do you do? What's your next move? Do you make an example of her? Try to find a middle ground? Your decision right now could literally define the future of your company.
At the end of the day, whatever Groundswell decides to do about Rachel specifically, the real solution has to be systemic. This whole thing is a huge wake-up call. It's a signal that they need to evolve their leadership, protect their operations, and get crystal clear on company policy so this can't happen again. It's all about building a framework that can balance ethics with agility. And that really is the million-dollar question at the heart of this whole case, isn't it? It's the challenge that pretty much every modern leader is facing. How do you encourage that amazing entrepreneurial fire in your best people without letting them accidentally burn down the whole house? So we're going to leave you with this final tough question. When you're really forced to make a choice, what do you prioritize? Do you protect the culture that holds the whole team together? Or do you support the innovator who's pushing everyone into the future? It's a tough one to think about.